Zix, Zix.
It's Spook Show, Jason Shepherd back. Another Monday for the mind. Boils and ghouls. It's time to get your mind right. With Jason Shepherd. All Spooktober long.
They've been dead a long time.
What's up, buddy?
Everybody?
Good.
And October's intro brought to you by our most violent moments.
Yeah, just for you to get your mind right on another Monday for the mind.
Mondays for the mind. It is Halloween's Eve, and joining us, I believe for the third time. I believe this is his third time he's on his way to that Five Timers Club. It's Ron Chevarie.
Oh, hey guys.
What's up, man?
It's been a donkey's age, hasn't it?
It has. It's been a minute.
So what's shaking on this All Hallows Eve? Any crazy stuff going down?
Not really.
Looks like there might be soon behind you, Chase.
If something does happen, please let me know because I don't have anything planned. So
I'll keep my eyes open.
be very
That
concerned.
Yeah, that would be very scary. A true one. No, nothing really going down over here. I've been kicking back, still watching some spooky stuff. I mean, I guess we did go to the Woodman the other day.
Awesome. You both have
Signed posters, so if you didn't go,
sweet.
you missed out.
Right
Missed
on.
out.
What an
That
event that must have been.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. That was a pretty fun time.
Yeah, it's nice to go to theaters and see that stuff live like that.
I really liked the theater too. It was like a very small, like intimate theater. And I've only been to theaters like that a handful of times, but I always really enjoyed it because you're just right there with the movie.
Yeah, it's like going to a small bar and catching a band, and it feels real intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah. Well, we've been watching a lot of horror this month too, and I've got Jan on board too, and Jan's slowly getting. I'm slowly getting her into some scarier stuff. She doesn't like the jump scares and the nightmare fuel. So, we've been doing some experimenting, and there was one that I'll talk about that maybe we got a little too close to nightmare area for her, but I think we're doing okay. So, we've been doing a lot of that. Man, it's been a busy month. We've actually got an exclusive. We've got a Chase and Chef exclusive to share with you.
There we go.
An exclusive to share with you. We have some news on the Who incident front, and we thought we'd let you know first and foremost here on the show, everybody, that within a week to 11 weeks, you'll be able to see the Who incident on Amazon Prime. We couldn't believe it. We went fishing in the pond and they bit. So that's something that's happening, which is really exciting.
Awesome. That is really awesome.
Yes.
We couldn't be more excited, and we're very grateful for that. And chances are it might just be in the UK and the US, and here we are in Canada. We won't even be able to see it. So anybody out there in streaming world sees it before us, get in touch with us and let us know so we can alert everybody else to that. But that's coming soon. And in other Who incident news, we're really excited to share that we will be printing the DVDs very soon. Another Chase Chef exclusive. Flash. That we're gonna have DVDs ready
That's
soon.
awesome.
Our artist that actually did the cover work for our cover for a poster right there, Jason Christopher, he is creating a found footage distribution, a physical found footage distribution company that focuses on independent films. And this is one of several that he's got lined up to start coming out. His company is called Not Quite Reality.
Nice. Like,
It's
shout
very
outs to them.
right. Yeah. So Jason's going to do awesome with that. And so we've gone on both fronts for the Who incident. We're doing really good that way. And we can't wait for everybody to experience this. And so we're going to be sending out screeners pretty soon, screamers for everybody to see. And
Nice.
And if anyone's into doing reviews and that, contact us, Haunted Lodge Productions, and we'll be more than happy to get a screener out to you.
Nice.
Without giving anything away, I'll say we enjoyed it very much.
Oh, thanks.
We've had the chance to see this thing, and it's one of our favorites we've seen for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
it really is.
Right on. We appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of work got put into that. So many different hats that many other people wore as well too, and it was a good group effort. We feel that it should do all right. If you'd like, I could get into some of the spooky movies we've been watching this month. So, and it's all across the board, right? So there's certain scary ones that I'll watch when Jan goes to bed, knowing she can't handle them. They'd be giving her nightmares. And then there's ones we've been experimenting with. So I've actually got some props here to show you. So starting first on the list, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this movie. This is a classic movie. This goes back to the 80s. I believe this is like early 80s, even late 70s.
Nice.
So The Changeling, with starring George C. Scott. It's a slow burn mystery ghost story.
Nice.
That is such an amazing movie. It's been many years since I've seen it, and it still holds up. In this day and age of fast, it's a really nice slow burn, and it really does hold up. It's solid. I recommend that to anybody that's enjoys The Changeling.
That one's been on my to watch list for a little bit now. I'm familiar with what the movie's about, but I haven't seen it.
Right. It's pretty good. It's on Tubi, I believe, as well, too. So anybody that wants to see that out there. Jan had never seen this, so we slapped this in a week ago.
Okay.
I love
nice.
it. Here before Christmas. So I remember going to the theaters when that first came out, and I was like a big child, even though I wasn't aged child. And I've loved it ever since. And so that's such a great Halloween movie. Everybody always asks, but isn't it a Christmas movie? Well, it delves into that area, but it primarily is a Halloween movie. And it's got so many great little cool puppets and designs. Tim Burton just doing what he does and creating such imaginative worlds. It was great.
No, it's a great one. I always save it for the day after Halloween. Like I said, I think I said this last week because I said only because the mayor, starts it off being like 364 days till Halloween. And that's just a perfect mood setter movie for that day.
Yeah, it is a good one. It's a good come down from all the scares potentially too, right?
Right.
Now this next one, this is the one that got a little iffy, and Jan was like, well, maybe that pushed the limit a little bit, but she actually sat through it all and she enjoyed it. And that is Freddy versus Jason. So this is a great movie. If you like Freddy, if you like Jason, I've heard a lot of pans on that movie, but that still holds up for me as just a fun popcorn film to sit back and just laugh at. And it's all about, Freddy with the one-liners, and it actually I thought it gave some levity to Jason having Freddy there. Jason was like the straight man, and Freddy was the guy giving the gags and stuff. It rounded his character out a little bit more in there, I thought.
I agree. I really was interested where the comic books went with it too, throw in Freddy versus Jason versus Evil Dead into the mix.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been something, especially back when that came out. You throw Bruce Campbell in the sequel to that and have the three of them go at it. That would have been awesome.
I'd still watch that.
Yeah, I would too. I believe they're all getting a little too old for that, but you never know, right?
We animated.
Yeah. Now the next one, this was a mini series, so this is going way back to the 80s, and I still have my VHS copy of it. That would be V. If
V.
anyone's aware of this, it was a mini series to start, and then it turned into a series back in the 80s. It essentially deals with aliens coming down that look friendly, but they're not. And that still holds up to me as a fun movie. This was way before Independence Day was even a concept. This is what we had back in the 80s. There were no alien invasion movies. This was the most epic thing ever. And to go back and revisit that was a lot of fun. And V was also Robert Englund's first film role, right? The world got to see Robert Englund for the first time as Little Willie, the alien, who was like a nice guy, which didn't fit the mold necessarily for these aliens, right? So as a kid, he really stuck out to me. And I was like, wow, that guy's really interesting. And I like this Willie character. And who knew that years later we'd get Freddy Krueger from that guy? That's so
right.
So that's a fun one. It might not be, I think it's Halloween adjacent, it's all horror. It's very horrific, the idea of that happening. Yeah. And then far, far different from Krueger, like the opposite ends of the spectrum, In fact, I'm going to do a little name drop in here. And several years ago, I think it's going way back to 2006, I had the opportunity to work on some low budget horror films in Hamilton, Ontario. I think I was doing painting and some construction on this one. It was called Heartstopper. And it starred, the A-lister was Robert Englund. And I had a chance to meet my movie hero. So I was offered an opportunity to have a one-on-one chat with him. It was so amazing, so brilliant. He was playing the good guy in this movie, though. So if you ever get a chance to dig this one up and find it, he was the cop. He was the cop trying to stop the bad guy. So it was interesting. And going back to what Ricky said about the opposite ends of the spectrum from his character in V to Freddy, well, here it is. He's gone full 360 when he did this movie, and he's back. He was back to doing that role. I don't think he's done any more, roles of that nature since. But it was really interesting to see him play the good guy for a change.
That is cool.
Oh, and there's a picture of him wearing my glove that I made in high school, holding it up to my face, like he was shouting obscenities while these pictures were taken, like Freddy. It was so amazing. As a fan, come true,
Right.
In fact, right behind me, right over here, is that glove, that very glove. It's still in one piece. If you want, I'll kind of put it on because I made this in high school by freeze framing the videotape. So I could see at the beginning of the movie how Freddy was making his glove. And at the time, my high school was a shops high school. So, we had welding, we could bend metal, we had hand rivets that we could pound into things. So I fabricated this glove myself, and I've had it ever since. So there it is. This is all folded metal. So, I could bring it into high school without hurting anybody. It was all on the up and up safe. But many, many Halloweens, I wore this just walking around. I had a good shirt at the time. I had the fedora. But just think, Robert Englund had this on his hand, man. And you can tell I haven't washed it since, right? But
that's sick.
Are you ready for a thumbnail? Here, I got a line for you. Oh, ready for stream time, bitch. You can always have fun making your own toys, and you don't have to be a kid.
That's true. This is very true. It's never too late. I'm gonna make my own Freddy glove at some point in life. I'm sure.
Do it. Even if it's out of cardboard, it's fun, man. It's a blast. And that's the whole another thing about Halloween. Just kind of like Christmas adjacent, it embraces the child in every one of us. We should embrace the child and that wonderment. And let your guards down and maybe be scared. It's what the season kind of is about, right? Enjoy that.
It's true.
I love it.
I feel like last week I was kind of saying how I learned that my favorite type of horror movie are these like horror comedies that are fun and kind of campy and all that stuff. But I think that's kind of part of why, like these are movies that even at their most extreme, like, I could show my kid. You know, like once they're at a certain age, maybe we can work in like the Evil Deads and stuff like that. You know, but at a young age, you know, we can watch. You know, I don't know. Who knows? So the gauge is different for other people.
Who knows?
Okay, let's sit here and watch Killer Clowns. I don't care.
It is, but even for a younger age, some of the good ones that you could start with might be like Monster Squad, which is so amazing.
Which I just watched for the first time last week.
Wow, did you? I hope you enjoyed it because it is a brilliant movie.
I did. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, Wolfman's got nards. You know, who knew? Things like Coraline.
Yes.
Although that could even be, you know, that could be a bit too much for some young kids because it is pretty creepy.
That was the one when I was younger. Nightmare Before Christmas was my movie when I was like young. Like, I mean, I would go around and reenact it and stuff like that. But then my youngest sister, she would always want to watch Coraline with me, and I was just like, you know, that nostalgia of it, and you know, it is a little freaky. But recently, I learned the phrase gateway horror, like horror basically for children to get into horror, and I'm like, you know what, that I like that. I do. I like that a lot. Like with this Five Nights at Freddy's movie that just came out, Belle and I watched that over the weekend. I've been getting her to watch a little bit more at a time, and like Shep said earlier, it's for kids. So you know, he was glad to hear that she made it through. You know, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it should have been rated R. It should have been gory," and I'm like, "No, I think it's fine. Like as a kids horror flick, I think it works just fine." You know?
And considering where it came from, it's fine to have that. You know, like Wolfman's got nerds. Now, very unkid friendly, rounding out some of the movies that we've watched. This is one of the ones that I watched when Jan went to bed. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. So here it is, #1 horror movie of all time. I've thought about it over the years. This one still keeps floating right to the top, and that would be John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing.
The original. And you know, I think we've had this conversation before. I think I was underage when I first saw that in a drive-in in the East Coast. Nice. And it blew my little mind away. It was the craziest thing I had seen up to that point, and quite a while since. You know, it took years for me to see something that was more bombastic than that. And the fact that was all practical, you know, effects. So many talented artists working behind the scenes to design those things, to design the puppets, to go even illustrative comic book artists. William Stout was one of the main influencers, one of the main influential artists that helped to design the look of the horror of the creature in that one. Right now, I'm actually wearing a great shirt that I love. You might recognize him. You know, if you know Return of the Living Dead, that's the Tarman, and that was William Stout who designed that.
I just watched that for the first time like a week or two ago as well, and I loved it.
It's so amazing. And speaking about comedy and horror, the way it works well, that one, I was just belly laughing when I first saw that, and it still holds up. And they did a sequel. The second sequel, that one was real solid. Then they started getting kind of weird and woolly, but you know, the first two stand out as some of the most brilliant comedy horror that I've ever seen. So
it blew my mind. I was like, how have I not seen this movie?
But getting back to The Thing, here's the thing about The Thing. All right.
Here's the thing about The Thing.
So John Carpenter's Thing was done in 1983, and they've got what everyone's calling a reboot that was done in 2011, I believe. So that reboot didn't use practical effects. I think a lot of people have talked about that, and it does take it out it takes me out of it a little bit. It's not the best practical effect CG animation I've ever seen, but overall, if you go into it realizing that it's a prequel, I don't know if many people know this, but that reboot is in fact a prequel. That looks to me, watching them in the right order now. So I watched the 2011 one first, then I watched John Carpenter's after that. It tells the story about how the Norwegians found The Thing in the first place, right down to details of set that they designed based on the 1983 John Carpenter film. So it actually matches. That movie ends with them flying in a helicopter, chasing the dog. and the music, boom, 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 boom. And if you skip the alien landing and the opening of John Carpenter's and cut right to the start with the helicopters chasing the dog, same notes, boom, boom. Ennio Morricone doing the soundtrack for that. Just brilliant. It's a cool way to watch it. If it's been a while and you want to watch the thing and you have both, try it in that order. I highly recommend it. And you might appreciate it a little bit more. I still do think John Carpenter's Wow is the best thing that blew my mind and really swayed me at a young age to say, yeah, this is my genre. This is crazy.
Yeah, I might have to give it another go. Shep and I famously aren't big fans of the thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, well,
Maybe
try
we
that
do.
when you're ready, and if you have access to the other one, check it
Well, I
out.
was going to say, when I learned that was a prequel, the only time I ever saw the 2011 one was in 2011. I haven't seen it since, but I've wanted to watch it again, knowing that it was a prequel, and then maybe I should give the other one a chance again. I will say the practical effects. There's no argument there from us. I mean, the practical effects. It's the best part of the movie for me, and I love John Carpenter too. I'm a big John Carpenter fan.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that one just didn't trip our trigger.
Okay.
Like it has for some people.
Well, hey, and that's the cool thing about the horror genre, right? Like something that could be amazing that one person doesn't float somebody else's boat,
It's very true.
And we all get along, or most of us do, usually.
Trauma remakes.
Well, which Trauma remakes? So they're remaking Toxic Avenger.
I know they're doing Toxic Avenger. I didn't know they were doing anything else.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Oh.
I'm for it. If it's dope, I'm for it.
And
saw those Trauma movies, so.
And trauma's interesting. Trauma stuff can be interesting. It can be anywhere from real low budget to low budget that doesn't look like low budget.
I've seen like a lot of movies like with that inspiration. Being a James Gunn fan, it's hard not to know what Trauma is. With it having his roots set there, you see that influence in everything that he's done since.
Yeah.
So need to probably put those on my list for next year to check out.
Yeah, there's only so many days in the month, right? Although here I watch horror all the time, but Jan specifically has been like very graciously diving into the horror theme this month with me. So that's really cool. We have to figure out one to end note on. Do you have any suggestions for somebody who can't do jump scares and real gory stuff?
Has she seen the original Halloween? Because I feel like that's the perfect pick for Halloween.
I'm not sure he has, and that's probably a great idea. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah.
There's no blood in the whole movie.
She did watch Friday the 13th, the very first one, with me this month, and she had never seen it. And I forgot, Jason's not even in that movie.
Right, yeah.
Not with the mask, at least. You don't see him till the end when he's flying out of the water. Sorry, spoilers, everyone. But Halloween's a great idea. And once again, John Carpenter, right? Like, there's something about John Carpenter films that I've always gravitated towards. All of his movies, even Prince of Darkness is an amazing movie. They Live, if you want to go to that alien, conspiracy end of things. Brilliant movie with Roddy Piper. If you know, wow.
And he did Christine as well, didn't he?
Christine. That was the first novel I ever read, I think, at the age of 8. Yeah. See, my parents didn't know what I was reading. And so I got away with it. And but I wasn't waking up with nightmares or anything like that.
It was my favorite. I'm a personal fan of his Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned? Yeah, I'm not too familiar. I'll have to go back and revisit that one sometime. But
I still haven't seen Talk to Me.
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen Talk to Me either.
Yeah.
Damn, we all hadn't seen it.
Sorry, Randy. You're throwing in the topics. We're like, we don't know. Sorry.
Sorry. we'll have to watch that and come back another time. But one more that I'm going to try and watch before it's all over tomorrow is this. This is another one of my favorite movies. As a kid, I remember buying my parents buying me the graphic novel that was on a spinner rack. And once again, on the East Coast, we're a visiting family, and it was my treat. You get one treat, and that'll shut you up in the back of the car and keep you at bay for a while. That's the one I chose, and that was before I'd even seen the movie. I was too young to see the movie at the time. My parents wouldn't let me rent that, and the book was unbelievably amazing. Like Bernie Wrightson artwork, he's one of my favorite horror artists, Bernie Wrightson, and this is a good segue as well too. Getting into the idea of comic artists. Comics were a major influence for me growing up. Anything horror I could get on. You got to remember, there was no internet, no intraweb when I was a kid. And all we had, isn't that crazy? Can you believe a time when there was no interweb, like internet? But we had the library we can go to. We had comics, and we had whatever movies were on TV at the time. And I was just like a little horror sponge, just soaking it all up. And I still have a bunch of the comics from my childhood. Let me just show you a couple here, just give you an idea. Things like the unexpected. Like, look at that cover. Like, you know, like that's probably a movie right there. Look at that.
That looks pretty dope.
And Monsters on the Prowl. Oh, I've always loved monsters. Monsters are my favorite type of creep, you know. And this one's kind of special. So this one, I remember this came out in 1976, so I would have been all of 7 years old maybe. And I remember drawing this cover over and over, probably about 20 times, because I was so fascinated with the image of like a little Sasquatch guy hopping over and people. And ironically, now some people say that looks like Jan, and either this guy or this guy could be me, depending on shaving states and whatnot. But comics, toys, you name it. You can see some stuff behind me here. As a kid, I was all about that. You know, going to the library. There was this one book I'd always try to get, and there was these one or two other guys, these boys, that kept signing it out, and it's funny because they were probably saying the same thing about me. Because back then you'd have this little card that you'd have to pull out of the back of the book and sign it. They'd stamp it to tell you when it had to come back, so you could pull it out and see who's been like borrowing the book, right? Well, it was this book. So little me would borrow this huge book. It was like probably half the size of me at the time. And this book told me about major classic movies that I was always on the search for. One in particular was Freaks. At a wee age, I was like, what is this movie, Freaks? And like, why isn't it not on TV? I had no idea, but later on as an adult, I realized that Todd Browning, a very famous director who directed Bela Lugosi in the original Dracula, is who directed Freaks. And so this was shortly after Dracula. So Todd Browning was a star director. When Freaks came out, they blackballed him. Hollywood blackballed him for using actual real sideshow freaks because the world was not ready to deal with how to assume that at that point. So that movie went into hiding. I think Todd Browning, eventually passed on, not being recognized for all his accomplishments until well after his death. One of the first times I got a chance to see Freaks was this underground video store in Toronto, and that's the first time I saw it. And this was in college now, and it blew my mind. Couldn't believe that this movie was made way back then. Unbelievable. This actual book that I have here is not the one that I used to get at the library. A very dear friend, David Turner, gifted that to me many years ago. He was lightening some books and said, "Hey, I know you're into horror. Do you want these books?" And I saw that. My eyes lit up. It's like, I can't believe you have that. I haven't seen it since I was a little kid in elementary school. So cool. But influences, right?
It is dope.
It's so now it's so easy to go on the internet and just tap a few keys and you've got any information you need at your fingertips. It was much harder back in the days,
Yeah, it really was, though. I mean, I had dial-up growing up, so I kind of remember the struggle before even having the internet.
Right?
Dial-up was a big thing.
Oh, for sure.
Even nowadays, I feel like I almost prefer the old school method of finding things because our friend Gela Rediger and I have a little book club. We swap comics, and
Oh, that's
and stuff. And she, like, the way she chooses comics is like my brain doesn't work that way, and she exposes me to the coolest things. And I've read so many fantastic horror comics thanks to her. And yeah, I mean, there's so many great stories out there, and the artwork too. I mean, she draws my eye to that a lot. You know, like with her being the artist, she'll always recommend something to be like, "Oh, I love the artwork in this," and you know, and horror comics. I feel like they are kind of overlooked. It's such a shame the kids aren't mindful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I sold most of my comics from my childhood except for my horror comics, and I wish I would have held on to some of those because some of those superhero ones really went up in price. But
Yeah.
but I'm happy that I held on to my horror ones, and I still go through them. I go through phases. I go through reading phases where I'm voraciously reading for months at a time. Then I stop for a little bit. There's only so much time, and heck, when you're making movies, there's only comics are a great go-to when you're busy, because a lot of them are anthology.
Sure.
Yeah, comics influencing artists. See that? It's pretty cool. It's
Perfect example for a perfect plug here is Gella's animated story that just came out. Her visual story, Underground. You can go watch at Camp Nostalgic Studios. She hand drew every frame of that, all 42 frames, I believe. You need to fact check that. This is the second week in a row I haven't done a number. I believe it's 42 frames, but having been her book club buddy, I see a lot of that influence in all the books that she gives me in her book too. And I've been pushing her for a while. I'm like, you gotta, like, I know that you have this in you. I want to see that. Like, I want to see you do more of that. Haters be damned.
Haters be damned.
Yeah.
So are you either of you boys going out trick or treating this year, or?
I won't be trick or treating per se, but I'll be out with the kids, letting them go out and getting as much as we can.
I asked, I was like, with the newborn, does that technically mean we can go trick or treating?
Sure. You get to carry the bucket for them, and like
trick or treat. Oh, cute baby.
Yeah.
They're not even think about who's eating that candy later.
Right. Mom and dad do have to kind of screen stuff to a degree, usually after the kids go to bed. But nowadays, I think kids are pretty good and they keep a pretty good count of what they get, right? So
you got to get that candy tax regardless. It's the candy tax. I need a couple Reese's cups. You know what I'm saying?
That's one of my favorites. Another favorite of mine is Charleston Chew, which we don't usually get up here in Canada. Only in Halloween. I find them at this one grocery store.
It is dad tech. I was just telling Belle earlier that was like my dad's go-to. Like if we didn't eat our Reese's cups, like the moment we got them, they're gone.
Oh yeah, that's gold. That stuff's gold.
I love me a Reese's cup, dude. On the real. For real. That's like top tier. That was top tier candy for me, especially if you got two, like just a regular size. People was handing out big size candy bars, and you got a Reese's, two of them. Sheesh.
Oh yeah, hey, give her. Yeah, I'll accept all Charleston Chews from generally people I know. But one fun time when one time in band camp. No, there's one time when Jan, our other producer, Ashleen, and myself, we did a road trip down to West Virginia. And the whole time we used this book, Rosemary Guiley's book about monsters in West Virginia. I had book noted it, knowing exactly where we were driving through. So Ashleen was reading like a tour guide for us as we drove through each state. And I made sure to pull into a gas station when we got to Charleston. And I was chewing on a big Billy Club Charleston Chew when I was going through there. Bought a few for the road.
That's dope.
But, I've always loved candy. But Halloween, and like, do you remember going around and just being amazed by all the activity of kids in costumes? It was such a spectacle. And aside from getting all that candy, which was so cool, wasn't it great to just experience that and be around that?
Absolutely.
I really do miss that. And You know, do you remember when you stopped trick or treating? Do you have trauma around that at all? No,
Not really.
okay.
Not really. For me, there is that, like, I guess maybe nostalgia you could call it for that time.
Yeah.
I feel like now I do capture that through movies. Like that's why I really gravitate towards Halloween movies that really have that vibe that Halloween gives you.
Yeah,
That's why I watch the original Halloween every year because on Halloween night, that's something I distinctly remember is, seeing all these people in Michael Myers masks walking around.
yeah.
Every house you go to, you hear that theme song. There's
Yeah,
Michael Myers on the TV.
yeah.
Like, who is this guy? Why do I keep seeing him everywhere? And it's just part of that fall. You go past a sewer drain and expect to see a clown. Like, especially as a kid, it's just such a vibe to it. And so I definitely try to capture that watching movies nowadays. And that's how I transitioned, I think, because when I stopped trick or treating, I think I was in 7th grade. And I was like, I'll stay at home. I had a Bart Simpson mask. I rented movies from a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And I remember I wasn't into horror movies yet, but I wanted to dip my toe into it. I'm thinking it's my first time staying home. I'm a big boy now. I'm not trick or treating, so I got 1408, the Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
I got that and Transformers because it was 2007. And I was like, I need a backup in case the horror movie doesn't work out. And I watched it by like fast forwarding through the whole thing, but I made it. I made it to the end.
That's a scary movie.
Yeah, I was like, well, that was fucking terrifying. And then I went into horror movies for like another like month or so, I think, after that.
Wow.
See, I remember trick or treating in like high school still. Me and my buddies going around and, even still going around, dressed as we were. And people would be like, who are you guys? And we'd be like, Tony Hawk, or some skateboarder just because that's how we dressed. I never let it die until I got old. And then you just hand out candy.
Yeah. Well, I think it was grade 7 for me. Geez, how old would I have been? I'm bad with the math right now. Anyways, young enough that I should have still been able to trick or treat. And I had no idea in my mind that was going to be the last year I trick or treated. So it was a bit traumatic for me. And let me explain why. My best friend at the time, his older brother had a beer bottle costume, right?
Right.
Definitely not our age group. But I don't know how his mom let him wear it, but his mom let him wear the beer bottle costume. We had this planned out about 2 weeks before Halloween. He was going to go as a beer bottle. So I decided to go as a beer opener, matching set, And at the time, we used to have beer openers that were like about this wide and flat, with a big church key, they used to call it, a big opening. So I designed this box. I did it all myself. I designed this box with some material, and I was a big kid, so I was not a skinny one. I was wide and wide. Everyone kept saying, I'd go to the door, trick or treat, and he'd be like, oh, what an awesome robot costume. I'm not a robot, I'd say. I'm a beer opener. Can't you tell? Until this one house I went up to, and this lady looks at him and looks at me, and she says, you're too old to be trick or treating. And she slammed the door in my face.
Oh, damn.
Man, I'm just a grade 7 kid, man. I took that to heart, and it's like, that was it. At that point, that night, we went home, and I hung up my trick-or-treating hat, and it was really sad, because I felt like I was forced because some miserable person took it upon themselves to tell me that I couldn't trick-or-treat. So, that's terrible. People don't do that. Even if you get teenagers coming, aren't you happy that they're actually just taking some candy from you and not vandalizing, stealing your car and pulling other shit? Like,
I wouldn't even give a shit if adults trick or treated.
Yeah.
Bill said the thing about the trunk or treats, and I agree. I just, I get where the concept started, but it's not Halloween. Somebody said something the other day about, I don't know. Well, it's probably more dangerous. I'm like, that's part of it. You go out there, there's maybe a razor blade in your apple. These things happen. It's Halloween night. You got to be prepared for the worst.
And back in the day when I was a kid, our parents would say, go out and get lost. They would literally use those words, right? Now parents shudder at the idea, right? But, we were told we had to stay within a certain parameter, our block and maybe the adjacent block, but we'd go wandering, it's Halloween. But it was scary because you're kind of going outside of your zone. So that really elevated the scare and the chase for the candy,
I absolutely agree with this. Fire up all the great cartoon Halloween specials.
Yeah. There's tons. There's new and old as well. If you go onto YouTube, there's some brilliant stuff. It's not just Charlie's Great Pumpkin,
Right.
There's a lot of other great ones.
The Disney ones like the Trick or Treat with the ducks. I always enjoyed that one. It's a personal favorite of mine.
Oh yeah, they have things that go way back to Saturday morning cartoons, like the Garfield Halloween special and stuff like that. Like when I was a kid, anything Halloween, if it was a Halloween special, I wanted to see it. It was like, this is gold.
It's true.
And that's the balance too that you were talking about, Chase, with the horror and the comedy as well. It's good to have that and not just go full on terrorist monster with the horror, but appreciate both sides of it too. And animation was always the gateway into the live action for me as well too.
I feel like we try to emulate that a little bit here, that October feeling. Like for me, like there would be TV specials and like movies airing on TV and just like that feeling of Halloween. And so like when October rolls around, that's why we try to put our best foot forward and just emulate those, somebody said something about throwing exorcism on in the background of a party. I'm like, please do. When I finally watched the black and white version, I'm like, that's exactly what it's for. Like,
yeah.
Setting that Halloween vibe. Party, don't even watch it. We don't give a shit. Just have it on the TV on the background and then just set the mood for Halloween.
Exactly. And speaking of exorcism, if anybody hasn't seen your little short film, The Exorcism of Chase and Shep, check it out because that's hilarious. So I checked that out a while when it first came out on October the 13th on Scareplex. I was like, right on. I was checking it out. And then, lo and behold, you put out a black and white one. You even had an audio commentary separate video too. So I checked them all out. Man, you guys did such a brilliant job. I was giggling and laughing the whole time. That is totally what we were talking about, Chase. It's the balance of comedy and horror that you guys achieved. And like, I was giggling a lot. And your homages were amazing. I love the names of the priests. Like I was just laughing when I heard those names come out. I was like, of course, like that's so funny. Those contacts you wore there, Shep, holy crap, eh?
They were nice.
Hard contact or soft?
No, they were soft, but my eyes are small apparently, so it took forever to get those contacts in my eyes, and I decided I wasn't going to try to do that one again.
Next time, don't go with the Magnum-sized contacts,
Right.
It looked great, though. For all your sacrifice, it looked really good on film. And the lighting you chose to use for those shots when you were close up on the possessed faces of each other, well, specifically, I remember it was Shep with the black that you had in the background. Very haunting, very, very surreal, let's say, and very effective. Even your scene cutting back and forth, and the neighbor, the neighbor character, that was Dave Gallagher, right? Or
Rediger.
Yeah, Rediger. Excuse me. He was hilarious. That was so funny. It was a nice little break from the comedy horror that was going on as well. And you guys do a lot of fun stuff like that I do appreciate that. And don't ever stop combining the horror and the comedy because that is gold. I think a lot of people do appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate the kind words.
Yeah,
very much so.
Keep on giving her, man.
And
we're going to.
We talk about doing scarier stuff, but I still think even if we ratchet up the scary, we won't be able to get away from the humor. I think it's just in our DNA.
Yeah. And, if people know you, they'll be waiting for the laughs and then it'll be over and it'll really confuse them, man.
So that being said, don't get comfortable either. We've got a lot of stuff up our sleeves we haven't unleashed on people that is designed to do just such a thing.
Most excellent. Well, I look forward to it, and you can shake me up anytime that way. I look forward to that. Oh, Flesher, yeah.
I agree.
That's really going back. Fleischer Cartoons, definitely the studio that created the first animated Superman cartoons, right? And, trying to remember what Halloween ones they had done. It's excuse me, Halloween, man. Like it sucks. It sucks that Christmas leaks into Halloween. You know, more and more every year. You see it.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it. People are pointing it out. It's like, man, it's not even Halloween, and all Halloween decorations are getting taken down in the dollar store, right? Maybe what they need to do is realize that Christmas is actually Halloween adjacent, in the sense that one of the very famous traditions at Christmas time is to tell scary ghost stories. You know, it really is a thing. As horror lovers, we need to embrace the fact that horror revolves around Christmas too. You know, it really
It does. It does.
We know that better than anybody.
Yeah, I'm ready to watch some Krampus stuff. You know,
right? Yeah.
The same thing every year. I mean, October, I'm just, by the end of it, I'm a little burnt out on horror movies, but even in my mind, I'm thinking about December rolling around, and I'm like, I'm going to take that short little break, and I'm going to go right into that holiday horror from there.
Yeah. Eat a few candy canes, you know, and take a break and start into that Christmas horror.
Right after Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. And there's Thanksgiving horror for that fix too, if you want, you know.
I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? And to the idea that was a parody little trailer that was out there.
My friend Corey and I watched Grindhouse the other night as the double feature with the trailers in the middle and everything.
Yeah, brilliant.
I love that they are good enough to watch separately, but to watch it as the whole shebang is just so much fun.
That's an experience, right?
And it's got those Halloween vibes, and Corey and I kept saying that the whole time. I mean, it's just the music and the way it's shot, just everything about it. Even though it's not a Halloween movie, it's the type of horror movie that feels perfect for Halloween time.
Yes, yeah, it's a good one for that, definitely.
I vibe with that.
And Grindhouse, you can't go wrong with Grindhouse. You know, like it's making a bit of a comeback as well too. You know, it's always been an appealing thing on a low budget level, and I think there's maybe a bit more appreciation for low budget films these days. There's only so many multi-million, billion-dollar movies I could watch that fail, and I try and just wrap my mind around how much money goes into failures. You'd almost think it was mafiosa at that point, right? Like, what are you designing these to fail? And I'm really not impressed with, you know, I'll be outspoken about this. The whole Disney live action reboot of their classics. I don't agree with that. It's very disturbing. I don't know if you've seen these images recently of Snow White. Like, if this is a joke, right? I don't know. Maybe it's me and I'm too old and curmudgeonous, but I am an animator and I appreciate this stuff just like anybody else. And it just feels like they're doing something pretty sacrilegious in the name of making money.
I agree with
Well, they should just go back to doing original stories. All studios should. And, you know, reboots are fine, but don't make it all about reboots and revamping things. Like, why can't you create something new?
When you first started doing it, I was open to the idea, and where they really lost me was The Lion King. I was so excited for that because I love The Lion King, and they've got this stacked cast, the most perfect cast they could have cast for The Lion King. And when I saw it, I had never been so let down by a film. I was just like, this is so lifeless. You know, without that animation, it's literally just watching animals talk, and animals don't express, you know? So it's just like, this is so monotonous and boring and lifeless. And we tried watching The Little Mermaid one recently, and they were very obviously on a soundstage. It's like they didn't even bother to CGI the water. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, you really are just cashing in on the names at this point.
Yeah. True. Yeah. And so if you want to see something, I don't know, we don't have Disney Plus or anything, but if anybody does, search out The Black Cauldron. Speaking of horror, that was one of the best, scariest animated films that Disney ever accomplished, in my mind. That was, back in the 70s, 80s? And they stuck that one in the vault. And it's like the ugly little child that they're putting in the attic in the vault that they don't want anybody to remember that they had. But it's stellar. And it's just because it goes to dark places, you know. Look at Disney doing The Princess and the Frog. I was lucky enough to work on that. I got to do some of Facilier, the main villain. There was a lot like voodoo, like it's just pure horror in that, but done in such a classy way.
Yeah.
I dread watching or hearing that they're going to have the live action reboot because I'm sure it's coming. But,
Yeah. Oh, it is. I've already seen the news.
wow.
Yeah.
Just blows me.
I've always been a big I want to see a boom of animated horror. I mean, I can't believe it hasn't happened. But there's got to be some company that'll take that risk of I just feel like there's so much potential there. There's so many horrifying things you could do within the realm of animation that I don't think you could achieve in live action.
Yeah,
sure.
There is something close that's Love, Death, and Robots. That's on Netflix. So, but that's sci-fi horror adjacent.
Right.
Back in the day, here's some interesting tidbits. Back in the day, Nelvana, who was responsible for the Care Bears, Beetlejuice and stuff like that they were in Toronto. They were having Clive Barker come in and talk, and the plans were in the works for them to do a fully 2D animated feature adaptation of The Thief of Always, Clive Barker's kind of horror novella that was more like a children's novel for adults. So when that word came out, I was like, I'm going to do anything I can to work on this. It's right here down the street. And it fell through, and that was a shame. I don't know if it's out there. It might be somewhere if you dig on the internet or dig on YouTube. There was a really renowned animator at the time, back in the 90s, that wanted to do a full feature-length animated horror movie that was something like Indiana Jones dealing with the paranormal and monsters and stuff.
That'd have been interesting.
I think it was called Arrow. And check it out. See if you can find this. There was a small little trailer that was actually done, a promotional trailer. It might be up on YouTube. And this shows him ripping an arm off a mummy and slamming it into another mummy. It was action-packed 2D horror. And I'd love to see that. There's certain clips from heavy metal, if you remember heavy metal. It wasn't all sci-fi. There was that one that Bernie Wrightson did the designs for on the plane where those guys turned into living dead corpses and come to life.
Interesting.
There is some very cool animated horror out there too, for sure.
Yeah. It's out there, but as a mainstream thing, I'm just surprised it never caught on. I mean, Shep and I have also talked all the time about people like England and Bruce Campbell and all of them. They are getting old. It is harder for them to do. Brad Dourif's got it made because he already does voice. I mean, all these other things you could easily move into animation.
It's just
froze up that whole time.
Yeah, you did.
You did. You came by every now and then, though. I think I got the gist of what you were saying.
Yeah, I did too. Animation is it's so cost involved, though, that it is a tricky thing. It is a tricky thing to delve into because it's I'd almost say it's even more than some low end films, just because there's so many bodies that are involved on every end of the level that need to do their job to accomplish the finished product.
That's true.
It's a tough one, but in this day and age when horror kind of is making a comeback as a genre that more and more people appreciate, you never know, right?
It's true. You do never know. Yeah. I've heard that Evil Dead's getting some sort of animation made. Okay. I think to continue the TV show.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Who knows? That could always change anytime.
And that was a great show too. I love that TV show. What a great extension from the whole universe that they originally created.
It really was. It really was.
Another director that I'm in love with. I haven't watched any of his movies this Halloween yet because I've seen them all so many times. But that's Stuart Gordon, the director of Reanimator, things like Reanimator. he did an awesome H.P. Lovecraft like Cthulhu movie called Dagon many years ago. Stuart Gordon's no longer with us, but his producer Brian Yunza was a big part of that as well too. And check out any stuff look up Stuart Gordon. Holy cow! From Beyond is one of the craziest, wackiest movies, man.
Okay.
Where pineal glands are bursting out of people's foreheads,
Yeah.
It just whacked out stuff. That was a gag I did in high school on somebody once, and we scared a couple of girls, and I put the little application on my forehead and ran out after watching the movie. Fresh from the movie.
Reminds me, another one I watched for the first time last week was The Fly, Cronenberg's The Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Which apparently is the first Cronenberg movie I've ever seen when I went back to check. So that makes it, I saw his son's movie earlier in the year, Infinity Pool. So that got a double dose of Cronenberg for the very first time.
Yeah. Cronenberg's another favorite of mine as well, too. I remember seeing The Fly when it hit theaters, and wow, for the time, that grotesque nature of throughout that movie was very fresh, and it was very shocking to audiences. Now you got things like The Human Centipede,
Right.
It's like, where do you go from there, right? But back then, The Fly, like when they were doing that arm wrestling and smashed his arm, the audience, wow! Like I wouldn't be surprised if people were puking in the audience back in those days. It looks so convincing, right? And that's your practical stuff too. I do love practical. All the 80s stuff. Some of my favorite movies go all the way back to the 80s, and they still stand up, in my opinion. And I'd rather watch them than any reboots any day,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope the practical effects make a big comeback instead of all the CGI shit.
Yeah, and even though we use CGI and stop motion in the Who incident, I do have an appreciation for practical, and that's a direction I might go a little bit more in the future myself when I'm creating some of my own stuff. I just had connections in the industry and dear friends, and it was a perfect opportunity to use their craft and do that. But practical is pretty wild, man, and CGI is making some leeway, a lot of leeway into. You almost don't even know what's real and what's not real these days.
When it's done right, I don't mind it. Because I was just saying not too long ago, I have a problem with CGI blood. It really bugs the shit out of me. It's just like, do the practical blood. Like, just go get yourself some chocolate syrup and some food coloring and just do the practical blood. There's a million different ways to do it.
Yeah.
But, wouldn't be, Mondays for the Mind if I lost my train of thought. It's all the freezing up. Usually you freezing up.
Yeah, you're doing a chef, man.
Yeah, I don't get what's up there.
CGI blood.
No.
CGI blood, it's noticeable. It's very noticeable when it's CGI, but
it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, Shep. Should we be calling somebody? Is that somebody in the background that I see behind him? What's going on there?
Any shadows back there?
Like a horror movie. I think I've seen this movie. It doesn't end well.
Right when we get to the end is right when he glitches all the way out. He gone. Oh, he gone.
Right.
Now
I thought we were all freezing there for a second.
That's what I was about to be like, did I freeze now?
No. There you go. You're back.
There he is.
Oh, no. He'll be back after this attack.
After this attack. Dave said, are we going to scrap the CGI blood from Chase and Shep's 2024 lineup? We might scrap.
I didn't realize he had CGI blood.
I don't think we've ever used CGI blood. I like getting covered in the fake blood myself. I think it adds to it.
Yeah, it looks like you enjoy it too, so that adds to it as well, right? Like, it's noticeable.
Yeah, it's like It makes it. I feel like it makes me more act better in the scene because it's like if I'm getting blood splattered on me, I want it to feel real. I want to be like, what the fuck, I don't want to just stand there.
Yeah, you need it wet and sticky to act that way. I believe. The idea of just like faking it, especially if it's pouring all over you.
Right.
I agree.
Fake blood is very fun. Not the thing totally glitching after he put his hand on his chest.
Yeah, this is looking like like a scripted situation.
It definitely is.
Oh, here he is.
He's back.
Everything's good, right?
And I hope so.
Randy said, "Earful of blood really gets him going." Yeah, yeah. I got it all up in your ear.
Everything.
Now you're getting a call? What's going on over there?
All I was going to say about the CGI blood is that I did see some good CGI blood recently that I was like, that's acceptable, If you take the time to make it look that good, it's actually the Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
I did not know that most of that blood was CGI, especially when it was spraying or something. And when I saw like a little bit of the behind the scenes of them doing it, I was like, damn, that's actually, I'm impressed that that's CGI blood because I would not have noticed unless I really looked for it.
I don't think I ever noticed that either. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can be done, but most of the time it feels so, it's like if you're just going to do the cartoonish CGI blood, just make yourself a batch of fake blood.
We all agreed in the chat. Everybody agreed.
It looks like it. Everybody took over. Thanks, everyone.
Fake blood's the way to go.
Hey, if you want, I do have another Chase and Shep exclusive. Let's go for 3. Ready?
Yeah.
Shep exclusive.
Oh.
All right, so here's something interesting. We did something really cool on the weekend. We actually shot a scene that was the last scene we were shooting in a movie that we're calling a compendium. It's a follow-up to the Who incident. It's currently untitled. It's got a lot of guest stars that are making cameo appearances, remote cameo appearances, and that includes you two guys that are doing a little stuff. We're really excited for that.
Hell yeah. We're excited for that.
That's going to be so great.
You're going to see a lot of these two fellows in 2024, that's for sure.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to start by doing that. And so this one is very different in the sense that we don't have a large budget on this one, unlike the Who incident. This one's very low budget. And with help from friends and some family, we managed to get it all shot. And we just have a few outstanding remote ones to do. But all that stuff is sitting in the editing dock. And I think that we could probably get it out before the end of next year. So the idea is to have that one out and ready shortly after the Who incident so you can experience this whole different level connected and associated with the story. It's pretty wild. Yeah. We're really excited for that one.
Yeah, I'm hyped for it. So
that was another exclusive. The world has not known that yet. And now I've said it. I've got to finish it. Another exclusive. Now I've got to get it done.
It's true. Yeah. Once you put it out there, it's like, all right, now I got to do this.
Yeah.
100%.
You're going live.
We're winding down, so it's about that time for the closing thoughts here.
One time for the mind.
One time for the mind.
I got you. It's been scrolling on the bottom the whole time. Tomorrow, have a safe Halloween, have a scary Halloween, and always remember to check your candy.
That's a good one.
You're never too old to trick or treat, except for when you are. You should know what that line is. Don't let somebody stop you. Don't let somebody crush your dreams.
Yeah. And my Monday for the Mind echoes that sentiment exactly. It's like, first of all, don't crush somebody's dreams just because you think they might be too old. Give them some candy. They could be doing worse. They could be jacking your car right now, And if you're a kid, if you're a kid at heart, stay a kid at heart, man. Halloween, even Christmas, going into that, it's all about loving everything around you. It's Halloween. Enjoy it. Soak it up and be that kid. Even adults, tap back into that childhood and have a really good time, everybody. Be safe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. What a spooky
Happy
month.
Halloween from all of us here at
Yes.
Chase. And make sure to watch the Who incident when it
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
We'll blast it all over our page when that time comes.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. It was great chat.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Great chatting with you too.
You know, have a happy Halloween and don't eat too much candy.
Happy Halloween. Peace.
Stay spooky.